wet little kid footprints.
Dressed in solid black. He had like a hoodie on, like had a hood over.
A few days later, I'd gotten word that the little girl had woken up in the pediatric ICU.
Reality. And after this experience, whatever this thing...
What's up, turds? It's Mel, aka Baby Girl, and we are going to watch some paranormal stories. See if we can get goosebumps, make our blood pressure rise with fear, right? I can't wait, so let's get to it. Uh-oh. What? Okay. I have had so many encounters with paranormal. I could tell you stories for days. I mean, I told you guys the one story about me experiencing the like witch light ghosts at the witch triangles where I was living. But anyways, there's been other times where you know, we could hear noises by the crawl space, and we went down there the one time, and there was actual like wet little kid footprints coming out of it, and I mean, that was enough to make you want to move out. But being a medium, I try to communicate with them enough to know if we can coexist, because I don't mind coexisting with an entity or a ghost. I know that sounds weird, as long as, you know, y'all can respect me, I'll respect you. We have to have boundaries, even with the paranormal, you know. So
Let me tell you about the spookiest demonic encounter I ever had. So I used to be a worship leader at a church, and I used to be married to a worship leader at a church. It was our first year of marriage, and we had just moved into a very small apartment, and it was in kind of a rough part of town. And well, one evening, me and my husband were just kind of hanging out on the little patio area outside our front door. It was dark. It was probably about 9 o'clock in the evening. And as we're sitting there just kind of talking, I look over my shoulder because something catches my eye. And I see a man standing probably 15 feet from us, dressed in solid black. He had like a hoodie on, like had a hood over his face, and I couldn't make out any facial features, but he was just standing there, just looking at us. And I look at my husband and I go, "Babe, let's go. That guy's creeping me out." And my husband kind of looks over there and he goes, "Okay." And he kind of ushers me back inside. We go inside, shut the door, lock the door. And I was like, what was that guy doing? That was just super creepy. He was just standing there staring at us. And my husband looks at me and he said, "Look, I didn't want to say this while we were outside because I didn't want to scare you, but
I had a feeling
there was nobody there." I said, "Nobody there? He was right there, like 15 feet away. He was just standing on the sidewalk staring at us. How could you have not seen him?" And he said, "I swear to God, babe, I looked right where you were looking. There was nobody on the sidewalk." This story gets creepier. Not long after this, my husband wakes me up in the middle of the night. We're laying in bed together, and he's like, babe, wake up." And so I kind of stir awake, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Are you the one sitting here tapping on the headboard?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I've been laying here awake for like 30 minutes, and I thought maybe you were just laying there like trying to prank me and scare me." I'm like, "Knocking on the headboard?" He's like, "Yeah, it's just been going like just right behind my head, and I thought maybe it was your hand and you were trying to do it to scare me." And I said, "No, I'm not knocking on the headboard." And he's like, "Okay, super weird." We go to sleep. He wakes up, I don't know how long it was, but he wakes up and he wakes me up again. He was like, "Oh my God, I just had the most demonic, terrifying dream."
They do very much.
And I'm going to tell y'all about that dream and how it came true in part 2.
Ooh.
So I had a mimic encounter this morning, which is the reason why I'm telling the story outside and not in there. So this morning at about 4 a.m., my husband was getting ready to leave for work. Typically, right before he leaves, he'll go into the bedroom, he'll give me a hug, he'll give me a kiss, and that's my way of knowing that he's leaving. I heard when he disarmed the alarm, when he got in his car, he has a really loud truck. I heard when he turned it on, and I heard when he drove off. At about 6 a.m., I see him walking back into the bedroom. My first thought was that he must have forgotten something. He does work about an hour away, so I figured he probably got all the way to work and realized he forgot something and had to drive all the way back. I see when he walks into the bedroom, and right next to where I'm laying down, like there's like a side table, we had a bag with like a bunch of snacks, protein bars, etc. he goes over there, he starts going through the bag, but he's being like extremely loud about it, like just fumbling, and I hear all the crickling of all the wrappers and stuff. So I kind of look in his direction and say, just take the whole bag, like just take the whole bag with you. He then turns around, walks over to me, gets this close to my face. Mind you, the room is still pretty dark. He gets this close to my face, kisses me, gives me like a really tight hug, and as he's like moving away, he just disappears, like in a flicker, like a flash. He's just gone. I'm there kind of looking around like, what just happened? Like, he was literally just here. And I look down and I see the bag of snacks that were on the table are now on my lap. So I didn't dream it. I didn't imagine it. Like, something literally moved that object from that table to me, came to me, and then disappeared. Needless to say, I will be cleansing the house. And I did go back to sleep after that because I don't let things like that really like bother me. I did pray and pretty much let it know that it wasn't welcome there. But this thing was 100% a mimic.
100%. You know, I haven't had many encounters with mimics, you know, thankfully, because usually that is serious. So, I mean, I'm glad that she could just like go to sleep and not be bothered by it, but I know I would definitely be affected just because I know more so what that can mean, you know, what's behind that. So we've got just a few more videos to go through here. I love watching these spooky videos. I hope you do too. Please subscribe, like, comment, tell me what your scary stories are. I would love to hear them. I really would. I love to talk about this kind of stuff. So I've got...
Hey guys, so this story is about my twin sister. So after my twin sister died, so me and my mom, we went up there, and my baby sister, we went up to where she was. They had a body, and we went to view the body and had made arrangements for the funeral home in Mobile to go pick her up. And so we had to go clean our apartment out. So me and my mom knew, I told my mom I was going to raise her kids, and so we had to look for her kids' birth certificate and social security card. So me and my mom looking, and my sister, we all looking while we packing up stuff, but we couldn't find it. And I was like, we was just so emotional, we was just ready to pack the stuff up and just leave. So I told my mom, don't worry about it. I'll just go to Board of Health and get another copy of birth certificate and go to Social Security office and get another copy of their Social Security card. And I was like, let's just go. So we packed everything up, came back to my apartment in Montgomery. And so I had a lot of family members came at my apartment, so I didn't feel like being bothered. So while everybody was up front, I just went in my room and shut the door. And I was just leaning against the wall, and I remember sitting in the corner and just crying. And I had brought one of the suitcases where I had all her kids' stuff in my room. So I'm just sitting there crying, and just like in a state of shock. And I heard my sister's voice so loud and clear. I'm not going crazy. And she was like, hey, Kiki, get up and look in the side pocket of the suitcase. And I was like, no, I don't feel like moving. And my sister was like, okay, but I need you to get up and look in that pocket. And I was like,
arguing with her even in death.
Now, mind you, just me in the room. But I heard my sister. I said, I don't feel like getting up. I said, I just viewed your body. You gone. I said, I'm mad. You're not here anymore. I don't feel like getting up. My sister said, girl, just get your butt up and just do what I say. She started hollering at me. So I was like, wait a minute. Girl, I don't care if you're dead or not. You ain't gonna be hollering at me. So now I'm hollering like, don't you raise your voice at me. I don't care about you hollering at me. So now I'm hollering. So, and my sister, just get up and just look in the suitcase. And so, I'm hollering back, don't you holler at me?
To send you away, girl.
So I heard a knock on my door. So it was my kids, my cousin, auntie. They was like, you okay? Who you hollering at? I said, Mika, she up in here hollering at me like she my mama. I said, I don't care. She don't be raising her voice at me. So now they looking at me like, what? I said, she up in here hollering at me. She lost her doggone mind. So they was like, okay. So they shut the door. And they went on back up front. And so I got mad. So I went over there to the suitcase. And so I'm going through the pockets. And guess what it was? It was the birth certificate and social security cards up in the side pocket of the suitcase. And I was like, oh. And I heard my sister said, next time, just do what I tell you. And I said, next time, don't you be hollering at me. And so, and I heard her chuckle. And she said, bye.
That's sweet. That's
and I started crying because I knew I wasn't going to hear her voice no more. But she come to me regularly in my dream. But that was the time my sister hollered at me.
Okay.
She was gone.
Top 10 Paranormal Experiences, Part 1. The last one's going to be one of my personal stories, so if you'd like to just skip ahead and check that out, you are more than welcome to. Also, potential trigger warning for anyone that gets super creeped out by really weird ghost stuff. You have been warned. One day after school, I was in my bedroom getting my homework out, and I hear my little sister coming up the stairs. I started talking to her once I saw her passing my door. I heard her go into her room and shut the door. I got up, still talking to her, and went to her door. It was open. No one was there. Godsmacked. I turned, looked around, and said, "Hello?" Nothing. I looked everywhere. Nothing. Went downstairs and looked. Nothing. I was home alone, and it was dead silent after that. Sitting in my rocking chair one day, I felt like someone was leaning on my chair, tilting me back. Told my son to get off the chair. Right then, he walked out of the room saying, "What?" His door was in front of me, and he had been playing on his Xbox. My apartment used to be an old hospital. Well, your mistake was getting a rocking chair while you live in what used to be an old hospital. And we all know that those have a 100% haunt rate 100% of the time. One time, my family and I were finally watching a horror movie together. I'm the horror movie person in the family. And during the movie, it was thundering outside with heavy rain. During the movie, right after an intense jump scare, one of the pictures that was hung up on our wall fell to the floor. It scared all of us. We have literally never had any pictures fall ever until that moment during a horror movie based on a true story. There was an old trunk in my old house that never got opened and had a small tree on it constantly. We once heard scratching coming from inside it and then knocking. Opened it and there was nothing there. I dropped my friend off. Granddaughter in the back seat. She's about 3. She tells me about Piper. I say, "Who's Piper?" She says, "Lady in Shirley's seat." No one in the car but us. I thought if there was someone in the passenger seat, I'm gonna crash. I look over, no one there. She continued to talk to her all the way home and asked if she could come in with us. No, she can't. My friends and I were walking from the train station back to my friend's place. While we walked and talked, a youngish lady walked towards us. To our left was a fenced-off drop of about 10 feet. To our right was a busy road. We shuffled to the fenced-off side to let her pass. She didn't say thank you. I turned around immediately after she passed, and she was gone. She wasn't on the opposite side of the road, and there's no gate or steps in the fenced-off part. Cannot explain it at all. I was on Star Island in New Hampshire. Very haunted, like so many spirits reside there, like the Lady in White, Oscar the Fisherman, the BB triplets, etc. And one night, I saw a woman all in white take 3 steps and vanish into thin air. I told my friend, and I was like, "My eyes are playing tricks on me." And she was like, "Or you saw the Lady in White." She's pretty friendly and harmless. I also saw faces in windows as I was walking by certain buildings and got freaked out. The other people there told me not to worry since the island was haunted. Nothing too creepy ever happened, but I've certainly believed in the paranormal ever since. Yesterday I watched The Conjuring 2. After it ended, I got ready to go take a bath, so my TV goes on that standby mode. Came back to my room after a 45-minute bath, procrastinated getting dressed for about 20 minutes. So at that point, the movie ended over an hour ago, and my TV has been on the standby screensaver black screen for probably 30 minutes. As I'm looking for socks, my TV is still black, but suddenly creepy music starts playing. I'm like, huh? That's not my TV. Can't be. Brush it off, and then it goes to the little speech intro. TV still black. The movie restarted without picture on Netflix. Moved into my grandmother's home after she passed. My mom and stepdad went to Florida, and my bestie was staying with me. One night, just after midnight, she and I heard the kitchen drawers and cupboards open and close. No one else was in the house at the time. I said, "Graham, everyone is fine. The news and weather are on. It is time for bed and prayers." All the noises stopped. So I lived in a haunted house from 2008 up until this year, so I've experienced a lot of freaky paranormal stuff. So one really creepy experience I've had was one night I was playing guitar in my room, and I was sitting in the corner of my room, so my field of view was every inch of the room. I need you all to know that it was dark outside. My ceiling fan was off. There was no one in my room, so there was no light coming in for anyone to cast shadows. Well, at one point, I looked up and saw a silhouette on the wall of someone walking in my room. The shadow was easily over like 6 foot tall, so it was a bit taller than me. So I ended up just sitting there for like an extra 30 minutes, not moving, on high alert, waiting for something else to happen. And then nothing happened after like 30 minutes, so I just got up and
sounds like me, I just said earlier.
And that was the first time I ever saw shadow figures in that house. I have a lot more of these type of stories, so if you're interested in hearing more, just let me know. And if you're someone who doesn't believe in any paranormal stuff,
as I'm saying, I've experienced so much paranormally that I just cannot even
explain it.
I can't even
100% true and still gives me chills to this very day.
Anyways,
and although I got permission to tell it, I haven't told many people until now. Many years ago, I was working in the ER and I got a patient who was a drowning victim, a 5-year-old girl who had fallen in the family swimming pool. When paramedics brought her in, they were doing CPR still. She had no pulse, no blood pressure, she wasn't breathing, and no signs of life. We brought her back to the ER room and we attempted to resuscitate her. I placed a breathing tube, and fortunately, after about 10 minutes, we got her pulse and blood pressure back. Family arrived and parents, of course, were extremely distraught. Dad particularly was really taking it hard. He was blaming himself. He was saying, I should have known better. It's all my fault. I should have known better. It's all my fault. I attempted to reassure him. I was like, sir, listen, this is not your fault. Accidents happen all the time. It was a complete accident. And he said, no, you don't understand. When I was a little kid, I went to stay with my grandparents, and they told me not to go down to the river that was right behind their house. I wandered down there anyways. I got in the river. I got in trouble, and I almost drowned. I started screaming for help. My grandpa ran out of the house, dove in the water, and he saved my life, but he lost his that day. And the dad said, first I killed my grandpa, now I almost killed my daughter. And I, again, tried to reassure him. I was like, sir, it's just an accident. It's not your fault. You know, everything will be okay. And the patient was admitted up to the pediatric ICU. A few days later, I'd gotten word that the little girl had woken up in the pediatric ICU and they had extubated her, taken out the breathing tube. So after my shift, I went up to visit with the family and the little girl. Obviously, the little girl wasn't talking too much because she's still recovering. So I'm talking to the mom and dad. They're extremely thankful. They're very grateful. And obviously, they're overwhelmingly ecstatic that she's going to survive this awful ordeal. So then I turn my attention to the little girl and I'm like, just sparking up natural conversation. Hey, do you remember me? And she's like, no. And I said, do you remember the nurses? Do you remember the paramedics? No. And out of nowhere, she goes, I remember Sam. And I said, who's Sam? She goes, I don't know. And I said, okay, well, what was Sam doing? Thinking, was he, doing chest compression, someone in the ER? I don't know. And she said, he was holding my hand. And I said, what did he look like? She said, he was wearing a hat and a funny jacket. And then I'm like, okay, I didn't know who she's talking about. Then the dad walks over and he's punching on his phone. And he pulls up a picture from Facebook and he points it at her and he goes, was that Sam? And she said, yeah, that's him. That's Sam. And dad turns to mom and he goes, oh my God, that's my grandpa. So his grandpa, who had died 25 years earlier, saving him from drowning, was there holding her hand as we were doing the resuscitation. Literal goosebumps.
Well, that's it for today's video, you guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking on my goofy ass channel. I appreciate everything, and there was something I was going to talk to you guys about. Darn it, I'll have to put it in the next one because now I can't remember. Anyways, that's life. That's me. I can't remember shit. Do-do-be-dee. Have a good night. Don't be an asshole. I'll leave it like that.